Hi, I'm Leigh-Chantelle from Viva.net, and I'm here today with Joshua Catcher from the Discerning Brute. How are you, Joshua?
I'm great. How are you?
That's good, and very good. And that's a new tie from your collection.
This is. You came on a good day. Today I got my shipment of all of my sustainable neckwear, which is 2 different shapes of bow ties and 1 shape of necktie. And this tie in particular is made from, let's see the label, recycled hemp and organic cotton blend.
That's great.
And even the interfacing, that's always been something tricky in menswear. The thing that like sort of gives the structure inside the tie, you see how the folds there? When it's open and they're constructing it, they put a mesh in there. And usually the mesh is made from wool. So even if you buy a cotton tie, there's a chance it's not vegan and you're still supporting, a wool product.
I know.
So I had
and
to,
it wouldn't say it on the label.
no, they don't have to list that. So my interfacing, it took me like a year of research to find, but I found interfacing made from recycled soda bottles
Oh, cool.
from Japan. So
And I love all the reusing and the recycling aspect, so that's really great.
it's really important to,
It is.
within the fashion industry, to get the factories and the industrial side to be recycling their materials and making materials from other recycled materials.
Exactly. And what are the other things, and where can you find the tie, and what are your other products online?
Probably by the time this airs, they will be up on my website, bravegentleman.com. So come to the website, and I think they're going to be around $100 a pop, which is not that bad for a designer, small run, sustainable, made in New York tie.
And what else do you sell on thegentleman.com?
On bravegentleman.com, I also sell my shoe line. That's a collaboration with Novacas, which is made in Portugal.
And they're sold at Moo Shoes too,
They'll
aren't
be
they?
sold at Moo Shoes. And also I have great fragrances from Le Labo, which is one of the premier fragrance lines made in France, and the owner is vegan and everything is vegan, and really, oh my god, the best fragrances.
Yeah.
And I have a really cool partnership going with V-Line Thieves by Sonia Den Elzen. She's a designer out of Toronto.
Yep.
And she does made-to-order organic cotton chinos and chambray shirts and chambray blazers. So that's really exciting.
Lovely. So what's your favorite product you sell?
My favorite product,
Other than your new ties that
yeah, I mean, I'm swooning over these. So these are my favorite right now. If I'm ignoring these, probably the shoes. We got a lot of pre-orders for the shoes. People are really excited about a higher end vegan men's shoe that's going to last a long time and that looks nice for the office or hanging out.
And sustainable and not made in China stuff as well.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah, it's important to me. Like, veganism is more than just about animals for me. It's it's about also how we treat other people and how we treat the environment. And something made in a sweatshop, for me, I wouldn't really consider that vegan.
No, I mean, I agree.
So I don't want to destroy a person's life any more than I want to destroy an animal's life.
Exactly. And so you've got that website that you sell all the clothing and apparel, and you also have a blog, thediscerningbrute.com.
Yes.
What do you speak about on the blog?
The blog started as a way to address a real void that I saw in the whole discourse involving sustainability and ethics surrounding animals and the environment, that it was always geared towards women, that it's seen as this very feminine thing to want to care about animals, to care about people, and nobody was really talking to guys in a way that they could relate to about these issues, showing athletes that are vegetarian or vegan. I talk a lot about mixed martial arts competitions and the fighters.
A lot of the guys are vegan, aren't they?
Yeah, and menswear, suits, jackets, ties, stuff like that. So I started blending in, a mix, a general lifestyle website, sort of the GQ for vegan guys, and that's how I started. That was my vision, and now, it's not exactly like a GQ. It definitely is totally up to what I'm thinking about and what's going on. I don't have a staff, so if I'm super focused on one specific issue, that's what you're going to hear about that week. But I try to keep it, I try to keep it interesting, and I try to keep it mixed. And I know a lot of women read the blog too. It's not
Yes.
it's not just for guys.
Yeah.
It's geared towards guys, but the information is good for anyone.
Yeah, exactly. And so the women that would like their menfolk to learn a few things
Yeah.
as well, that's
Yeah.
always helpful.
Yeah.
Especially some style tips.
Yeah. Style tips. And we're in post-veganism right now, where it's sort of reformulating itself and representing itself, and there's a new way that we're marketing ourselves, and we have a more sophisticated PR angle. And I think that the way that we present ourselves visually is important
Yes,
for
I agree.
the vegan cause. And as even if you don't agree with the ideas of fashion in general, which are not the most ethical, and there shouldn't be standards for the way people look, and these are things that are much deeper seated that we need to deal with as a culture. But for the time being, the way we present ourselves can have a huge impact on whether or not people are attracted to veganism.
That's a new idea, yeah, definitely. And so tell me about your vegan journey. When did you become vegan and why?
I became a vegan at heart immediately when I was in high school, I think in about 10th grade.
Yep.
I wasn't able to fully, go through with being vegan until a couple of years later. So I was in my senior year of high school was when I fully, cut out all animal products from my diet and my wardrobe, and I made a conscious effort to not support any companies or anything like that were exploiting animals. And of course, nobody can be perfect. It's not a religion. It's not about being puritanical. It's a practical social justice issue.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people get distracted with this idea of being pure and this millionth ingredient might be from and I feel like so many people get so distracted by that stuff that you lose sight of what's effective and what's going to help animals the most. Sorry for the tangent, but anyway. I went vegan after seeing a documentary about slaughterhouses.
What was the documentary?
I don't really remember. I think it was one of those Faces of Death documentaries that were big in the early 90s.
Yeah.
It was sort of just a shocking look at death, and they explored a slaughterhouse. And this was for an environmental club that I was in high school. We were talking about the rainforest, and in the early 90s the rainforest was really big. Save the rainforest! And we found out that a lot of the rainforest was being chopped down to graze cattle and to grow crops to feed the cattle.
There's not much of the Amazon left, is there?
It's going quick.
Yeah. That's very sad.
I know. It's beyond devastating that even with all the awareness, it doesn't seem like we were able to really save much of it.
But we still try.
We're still trying. Forests can regrow themselves slowly, and if there's part of it left, it can try to heal over the next few hundred years, but we have to stop the destruction. So found out that these cattle were being grazed, and we decided as a group to go vegetarian for a week.
Cool.
So it originally started as an environmental concern, and we watched this documentary as a motivation to go vegetarian, and I saw it and I was just like, oh my God, this is terrible. Yeah. I never thought about it. I always considered myself an animal lover. I grew up with pets. I was somebody who enjoyed, going out in nature, going camping, seeing wild animals. And when I finally made when that parallel became apparent that I like animals and I'm hurting animals, eating them, and how can this is a conflict of interest. This is cognitive dissonance, where that's in psychology, cognitive dissonance is where your values conflict with your actions, and that's a real a state of real sadness and depression for a lot of people, where they don't live up to their own values. So I think subconsciously anybody who considers themselves an animal lover is acting out cognitive dissonance. So I decided, instead of denying what I saw, I as much as I enjoyed the taste and the familiarity of it and the traditions surrounding it, I had to cut it out.
Yeah.
And
Right.
luckily my family was supportive.
That helps.
And slowly I cut out all animal products, and that was like 15 years ago.
Cool.
And I've lived to tell the tale.
You have. So tell me how fashion can be used as a great tool for marketing veganism.
Fashion is a great tool for communication in general. It's a universal language. Depending on culture, where you come from, it's one of the most prominent ways we express our own personal identities. And there is a real misconception within the activist community that the entire idea of fashion needs to be tossed out. And I think that that's a really grave tactical error. When we deal with issues surrounding the way animals are used for their meat, for their fur, for their feathers, whatever, being able to present yourself visually and communicate those ideas through the way you dress, that's the first thing people notice about you, if they can see, is what you're wearing and how you look, and do you meet the aesthetic standards that are a subconscious result of the culture that we live in at the current time, and do you appeal to them in a way that accommodates that mainstream dialect? And I understand why activists would want to toss that out, because it is based in a hierarchy. It is based in an unfair, models who are genetically blessed. They're freaks. They're so rare, and they're born with, these qualities that are unattainable, are often looked upon as these icons of fashion. But when we talk about just clothing, not the models, not the marketing, not the PR of the mainstream fashion world, we're talking about wool, which is connected to the #1 cause of global warming for Australia and New Zealand. We're talking about sheep and lamb. Lamb, which is the #1 worst greenhouse gas causing meat produced. So the industry of wool, which is embraced by the sustainable fashion community, which is a real problem and a real disconnect, that can be addressed through fashion, finding alternatives to wool. Leather, very connected to the beef industry. Fur, obviously, has been one of the longest running animal rights, modern animal rights issues.
I've heard fur's green now.
Oh yeah. Fur is real green.
And speaking about fur, you've got a magazine that you put out.
Yeah.
What's that called?
I have a magazine called Pinnacle, and the initiative is called Pinnacle Reinvent the Icon, and it's a platform for fashion industry professionals, designers, photographers, stylists, models, whatever, to come together and have a way to creatively talk about this issue. Because the animal rights movement is losing this issue. We're losing on this issue because of bad PR and bad marketing and bad tactics. Standing outside of a fur store, picketing and yelling, doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work. There's more fur being sold at a higher price than ever before. There was more fur on the runways last season than ever before.
Is that right?
Yeah. And they're laughing at us. They think we're silly. They think, we've given them the easiest thing to rebel against. And what do mainstream fashion consumers like? To be rebels. So when we make ourselves so easy to rebel against, we're playing right into their hands. So there needs to be some real serious tactical adjustments in the fashion industry. And instead of brushing it off, learn the dialect. Use it against them. So that's my approach with Pinnacle. But fur, the issue of fur has been going on since the late 70s. It was on the cover of GQ in 1977. Should animals become coats? And
and I thought we won it in was it the 90s or late 80s with the I'd rather be naked than wear fur.
Yeah.
All that. It seems like as though most people agree that they shouldn't wear fur around that time.
That was the real height of the anti-fur movement. It was the early 90s. The PETA campaign that was gaining so much popularity and momentum was I'd rather go naked than wear fur, which was their first model was Christy Turlington. And she's still to this day, committed to that. But
Okay.
all of the other models
others aren't.
have fur contracts. Cindy Crawford, Naomi Campbell,
Campbell.
they all reneged on their
So sad.
yeah, and you can't rely. That's why you can't rely on celebrities and models to carry the movement. You have to have, you know,
People that are
a stronger
passionate.
backbone than that. But I love what PETA did in the early '90s, and I think it was effective.
I think it was too.
But I think it still needs to evolve more. They're still doing the I'd rather go naked than wear fur, and I'm wondering, is it working still? I'm one of the people who loves PETA, and I'll defend them.
Yep.
I think what they do is fantastic and intelligent and clever, and it keeps the issues being talked about in the mainstream media. But I understand why people are critical of them.
So tell us where we can find more information about all your products and your website.
You can find all of the information you need on thediscerningbrute.com. You can connect to my online store from that. You can connect to Pinnacle website from there. And I have a newsletter, so please sign up for my weekly newsletter, and that'll keep you up to date on everything we're talking about on the blog, all of my new products, all of the photo campaigns and initiatives associated with Pinnacle. So stop by, leave a comment. I try to write back to all my commenters.
That's great. So for the ethical gentleman out there, check out Joshua's blogs and his websites. Thank you for the interview today, Joshua.
Thank you.
And see vivalavegan.net for more interviews with inspiring vegans.